This is the Distinctly Detroit podcast, the only pod that explores why one wants to be in the D. I am your host, Fyodor Ship III, the director of the University of Michigan Detroit Center. Join me as I interview students, scholars, leaders, and innovators about living, working, and loving in Detroit. All right. Welcome back to the Distinctly Detroit podcast. On today's episode, we're happy to host Nazim Fakir. Nazim is a managing partner for the Fakir Group LLC since 2019. For a large part of his career, before and after graduating from Detroit Mercy with the BS in Business Administration and Management, he was involved in ministry as an associate and senior pastor in Michigan, Illinois, and Minnesota. He is finishing his Executive MBA degree program at FAMU and is working with us and our partners on the Papa Was project that explores the fatherhood in Detroit. The DDP welcomes Nazim Fakir. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming on. Glad to have you, man. Really excited to have a conversation with you. So you've lived all over the country, but where did you grow up?
I grew up right here in Detroit on the west side. Livernois and 7 Mile. Well, Pennington and 7 Mile, right near the Avenue of Fashion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you grew up in the same neighborhood as I did. Okay. And where'd you go to high school?
I went to several high schools.
Okay.
I went to Cass Tech and Mumford and East Catholic.
Okay.
Yeah, I finished at East Catholic.
Okay. You went to Cass Tech and Mumford. We used to call that the Blue Jail back in the day.
Yeah, it kind of looks that way. It kind of looks that way.
So you have the distinction of being the term I actually got from you is a child of Motown. Tell us about who your father is and what's his relationship to Motown.
So my father is Abdul Duke Fakir, the last original member of the Motown singing group, the Four Tops. Okay. And so that's what kind of makes me a child of Motown.
Okay. So what was it like growing up in Detroit with your dad as a Motown artist? It
was great and awful. And so it was great because, I had experiences that most kids don't have, Yeah. I traveled to places most kids don't get to travel to. I met people that most kids don't get to meet. And so I've had some great experiences. But also, my father, he was on the road. He was working. And so he was gone a lot. I didn't get the chance really to sit across my father that much across the breakfast table. And things like that. And then my parents divorced when I was like 9 years old as well. Okay. So it was cool because, like I said, I had some experiences that really were a blessing to me, but it was also challenging because the family dynamic was challenged as well. So.
Okay. So how would you say your relationship with your father has affected your own fatherhood journey?
So my relationship with my father has affected my fatherhood journey greatly because of the work-induced absence, I wanted to be a very, very present father. And I'm a girl dad. I have 3 daughters. Okay. And so I always wanted my daughters to know that my dad, they could find me anytime. They could, no matter what was going on, they knew where their dad was or knew how to get to their dad really quickly. And they knew that their dad would get to them really quickly.
Okay. Girl dad it's very important to be involved in their lives and a part of their. What you say it was great and horrible. I mean, in that you was around, not around. What kind of challenges did you have, like being a child in Detroit? With your peers, like did you get teased or were you like? So did people try to take advantage of you?
Some of all of that. So like when I was much younger, I got teased a lot. Kids made fun of me. They wanted to beat me up. If I mentioned anything about my father, I was bragging, that kind of thing. Yeah. And so I got into a lot of fights, all kinds of stuff. But as I got older, a lot of my peers, actually their parents knew my parents, and so it was cool, but it was challenging as a little fella.
Okay.
Yeah. But it taught me how to fight.
I think most Detroiters learn that.
Taught me how to fight. I got to a point where I didn't take no more L's. I tell you that.
Okay. So you you grew up in Detroit, famous father, get lots of experiences, move on. You changed high schools a little bit. How'd you choose UDM for your for your undergraduate studies?
So initially, when I graduated high school, I went to Florida A&M. I had
Okay.
a scholarship to the School of Business down there, and I just, a lot of things happened, and I didn't graduate.
Okay.
I came home a couple years later, and I went to work. Right, started working, and eventually met my wife. We got married, started having children, and then I got involved in ministry. Um, I was called to ministry, and I was part of the African Methodist Episcopal Church, the AME Church.
Yeah.
In the AME Church, training is mandatory, right? You have to have an undergraduate degree, you have to have a Master of Divinity. And so I was struggling to figure out how I was going to go back to school and all that kind of stuff. Then my wife got called to work at University of Detroit Mercy,
Okay.
and she started working there at the UOD Law School. Well, part of their benefit package is free tuition for their families.
Oh.
So I jumped on that immediately. At the time, I was a partner in a mortgage company over on Livernois. I said, look, fellas, I love y'all, but I got to go. I'm going back to school. And I went back to school full time.
Okay.
And so I chose UOD because of the opportunity. Now, UOD is a great school,
Yeah.
right? But I probably wouldn't have gone there without that opportunity because it's also a very expensive school.
Yeah.
But I went there, I did well, graduated summa cum laude, and then ended up getting a scholarship to go to seminary in Chicago. And so we packed up and moved to Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was Chicago like?
Chicago was cool. It was great. I was at Garrett Evangelical Theological Seminary, and not only did I get a scholarship, but because my wife had been working in the registrar's office at UDM, she got hired at the seminary to work in the admissions office. So it was a package deal, and it worked out great for us. And I got my Master of Divinity there in 2009. I started pastoring in 2008 in the Chicago area, but
Okay.
I love Chicago. Yeah.
Okay. So I also understand you spent some time in Minneapolis
I did.
as well. So you spent time in Chicago, Minneapolis. What brought you back to Detroit?
My love for Detroit and my family, our family. Our family is aging, and we're starting to lose folks. And we just wanted, and we felt like we were missing the family connectivity. It was cool in Minnesota and all that kind of stuff, but we kind of felt like we were on an island, and we wanted to get back to our village.
Yeah.
And so we decided to move home. And so we moved home and brought our daughters home. Everybody came with us. And it's been great, man. I wanted to spend more time with my family. She wanted to spend more time with her family. And we've been, doing that since we've been back.
Yeah. Okay. And since you've been back, I've had the pleasure of meeting you through our Papa Was project.
Yeah.
What got you into kind of parent support programming or parent support activities? What drew you there?
So I had to go back for a minute because when I was in ministry here at Oak Grove AME Church, one of my direct lines of ministry work was the men's ministry, the Master's Men. Okay. And I've always been about uplifting men and supporting men and trying to make us better, right? Mm-hmm. As I get better myself. We stumble, we fall, we make mistakes. But the thing is you never look down on the brother unless you're looking down to help him up, right?
Yes, sir.
And so I've always tried to operate that way. So I actually got involved with the Papa Was Project, as you know, as an interviewee a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And after that, I was like, wow, this is dope. And one of our other partners, Sam Donald, he and I went to high school together at Cass before I was asked to leave. We, had conversation. I was like, man, I really would like to get involved in what you're doing. He's like, we'd love to have you, And so that got me into this fatherhood space. But I've always been in the space of ministering to men,
Okay.
And so this is just really another aspect of what I've been doing for over 20 years.
Okay. So in ministering to men, what are some of the things that you found most challenging?
I probably getting men to come out in the first place. Like men don't feel like, so men, in order to lead men, you have to be strong, right? Men don't like no weak leaders. Like they'll come to a meeting and be like, oh, this nigga, you know, he ain't about nothing, and they won't come back, right? So getting them to come out in the first place, getting their interest, and then getting them to stay, and which means that you have to provide some content for them. You got to provide something that's going to improve their lives. Because if not, it's not worth it to them. I ain't got time. I've been at work all day, and now you want me to come out on a Tuesday night or Wednesday night or whatever night, you know, man, I could be home with my woman. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
or at the pool hall or wherever they go. You know what I mean? Whatever they're doing. And so the toughest thing was engaging men in a way that made them want to keep coming.
Okay. And so what are some of the techniques that you used over time to do that?
Honesty, straightforwardness. They're used to people blowing smoke up there. You know what I mean? Just being transparent. And so what I did and why I was effective at it is I always told my story. You know, and my story has, you know, it's diverse. I'll just put it like that, right? And so when I share my story, and they say, "Okay, wait a minute, this brother, he means what he's talking about." You know, I see what he's doing. All right, wait a minute, let me give him a listen. And so authenticity works, and but then also providing things that they need, resources for various situations. You know, like right now, the things we're working on with the Papa Was Project. One of the things that we try to do on the back end is make sure that there's resources there for these fathers that don't understand, you know, how to deal with the friend of the court. You know what I mean? Yeah. How to deal with just these other issues that, you know, oftentimes mothers get a lot of support. Fathers don't get the same support. And so, first of all, telling that truth and then helping them get to the resources they need. And when they do that, they want to come because nobody else is telling them.
Tell the truth, because people need good information, and truth is very rare to find out there.
Yeah.
So tell me, what does the Fakir Group do?
The Fakir Group does a lot of things. The Fakir Group is a consulting company that consults in a number of areas. Because of my experience and growing up in a music family, I have experience in music management and things like that. And so we offer some of those services for those that need them. Also, as I'm seeking, I've already have a business degree. My undergraduate is in business, and I'm completing my Executive MBA. And so, taking organizations and doing business development, helping them with their business plans, you know, helping them to get to the next level and where they want to go, which is really kind of what I'm doing with the Papa Was Project in a sense. You know, we're trying to develop this thing and build it out. And so working with community organizations, businesses to basically help them go to the next level.
Okay. So what is the opportunity as being, do you see a greater opportunity for your company here in Detroit? I mean, my understanding is Detroit has a great entrepreneurial spirit and lots of things going on. Do you see positive?
I do.
Here?
And you know, I've been back for less than a year. But yes, I do. There's a lot of opportunity here, and a lot of folks that are trying to get, you know, to the next level, get up, you know, get on their feet in terms of their business and things like that. So there's a lot of opportunity here.
Okay. And okay, so let me see, double check my questions here. One of the things we were talking about even before we stand on is being a Detroiter, you have a great love of this city. You love its cars and history. Tell me a little bit about your interest in cars, your car enthusiasm.
Man. So I've been told that at the age of 2 years old, I would sit on the porch or in our window at our house at the corner of Pennington and 7 Mile and look out on 7 Mile as the cars went by. And I could tell you the make, model, and year of every car that went down the street at 2 years old.
Oh, wow.
That's what I've been told. My favorite toy was a set of plastic keys, car keys, that I used to carry around. I love cars, man. And then I had an uncle who was also a car guy, my mother's brother. And he was a Chrysler guy. He loved Mopars. So, and my mother had a Barracuda. You know, he had Roadrunner, GTX. He had a satellite station wagon that he had souped up. He used to take us to the drag races.
Okay.
And then I did some drag racing myself for a period of time. I love cars, man. I've been building model cars since I was able to put them together. I have 30 model cars in my office at home right now that are in different stages of being built.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I like everything cars. As a matter of fact, probably my retirement game would probably be in the car game.
Okay.
No, really.
Build your own garage, refurbishing garage.
Probably, or buy a garage and then,
Yeah.
but yeah, refurbish and sell, but like on a high end level.
Did you watch Gas Monkey?
Yep.
Oh, I used to love that. Fast and Loud. Used to love that shit. I'm
Yeah.
so mad they
I watched
took
that. I
off.
watched Iron Resurrection. I watch, Graveyard Cars. I watch.
Okay.
I mean, I can go down the
You
list.
watch all the
I watch
shows.
all of them.
Okay, I don't know about the other ones. Fast and Loud was my show. So curious. You're in the cars. You're in the Detroit music. Yeah, we're gonna have some fun with you in the lightning round. Another thing, as far as you're working on the Papa Was, is there anything specific or distinct that you think is an extra challenge, or presents an extra challenge to fatherhood in Detroit? Is there something specific about this region you believe that brings,
I think the challenge is the stigma and the misperception of men and fathers. There's a stigma about Black fathers. And then in Detroit, also Detroit has had this negative cloud over it for many years now. That cloud, the sun's coming out now, right? Detroit is the place to be. Folks are coming to Detroit, money's coming to Detroit, business is coming to Detroit, all that kind of stuff. But there has been a negative view of people from Detroit nationally. Because when you go outside of Detroit, you hear these things, you know what I'm saying? So I think that one of the challenges is the stigma. The other thing is as we mentioned earlier, access to resources. And not that the resources aren't there, it's the knowledge of the resources, right? And the way to access it. So that's been a challenge. But there are plenty of organizations out here doing great work, making sure that, the brothers and the men are actually made aware that these resources are available to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay. One last question before we transition to our lightning round is, what are your hopes for Detroit as things move forward, as the sun keeps shining and opportunity
My
keeps
hope is that
reigning?
the sun keeps shining and that, that Detroit keeps shining, which it is. I mean, heck, look at what happened with the NFL draft. I mean, the NFL was like, damn, Detroit is the place to be. We blew past all the records of attendance. Everybody that came to Detroit for the NFL draft, they just loved it. But I mean, that's just one thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Detroit is an amazing, diverse city that is actually, people talking about, well, they just building up downtown. No. There's stuff happening in the neighborhoods, because I live on the east side of Detroit now, in the hood.
Trader. Okay.
Right.
You left the west side for the east side. How dare you?
But Detroit is coming back all over, piece by piece. And so what I hope for Detroit is for this to continue and for it to literally become, again, the city that it used to be back in the 50s and 60s. Everybody wanted to be in Detroit. There was so much going on. We lost a lot of population after the 67 riots and all that sort of stuff. And it just kept declining all the way through in the 80s and 90s. And then we went through our bankruptcy and all that kind of stuff. But we've rebounded so strongly, and it's because of the spirit of the people in Detroit. Detroit has an amazing spirit. And the funny thing is, when you travel around the world and you run into somebody from Detroit, they're from Detroit, even before they tell you they're from Detroit.
They know it.
And so I'm looking for great things out of Detroit.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I was wrong, or I misread. I did have one other question.
Sure.
What's next for the Papa Was project?
So the Papa Was project is doing amazing things. We started out, of course, the Papa Was project started in 2022 at Motown Bass Day, with the honoring of the Temptations version of Papa Was a Rolling Stone being recorded 50 years earlier. We set out to then, interview 50 men about their fatherhood experiences based upon those lyrics. That was blown out the water. We did way more than 50 in 20 days. And, you know, we were blessed enough to pull all that together, get a grant, you know, from the University of Michigan, Engage Detroit. And so with that grant, we decided to do, you know, 4 events for the year. The first one being the Files of Funny, which we held back in November, which was amazing. We sold the joint out. I mean, it was free, but we filled the place up, you know.
200 people, yeah.
You know, and then the next thing we did was Dads and Ads, you know, talking about the impact of how we view, you know, fathers in TV ads. And so our next thing is TV Dads. It's going to be June 7th right here at the U of M Detroit Center, and thank you for that. And this will be a conversation looking at the role that fathers have played in television down through the years. You know, when television started in the 1950s, all the way to where we are now, and the changes that we have seen in fathers in father roles in television from then until now, and having some discussion about that. Because if you think about it, what you see on, you know, when the family gathers around to watch TV and they see these fathers in these particular roles, we don't just watch TV and then walk away. No, that becomes a part of our who we are and who we think we should be, right? And so we need to have some conversation about that. What did that mean for how we fathered back in 1960, 1970, in 1980, in 1990, right? And then what does that mean about how we father now? And then what is the difference between the way fathers looked in 1950 on television and the way they look now in 2024? You know, and so conversation about that. So we're doing that June 7th here from 6 to 8 p.m., the TV Dads, right here at the U of M Detroit Center.
All right, cool, yeah. Come on
and
out,
just let
folks.
your folks know it's free.
Yes.
And parking is included.
Yes, it is.
And we'll probably have a little something for them to eat.
Yes, we will.
Yeah.
Definitely. All right. Okay, well, we're going to transition to our lightning round.
Oh, boy.
And the lightning round is we ask a series
We don't
of
have
questions.
no drinks like on Drink Champs?
No.
Oh, okay, damn.
No, different show.
Oh, I'm sorry, my bad.
Different thing. Got that big blue. We'll talk about other podcast ideas after we go off. But we're going to engage about your thoughts on the city, your engagement with the city. And the first question is, what is your coney order?
My coney order?
Yeah.
So my coney, I don't eat conies that much anymore.
If you go to a coney
But
island,
I'm going to tell you, so my coney order was a coney special.
Okay.
With some chili fries. And I used to work at, one of my first jobs was at Coney Island. I used to work at Karis Coney Island in Northland.
Oh, okay.
I worked at Northland Coney when I was in the 9th grade. But yeah,
right.
that was it. Yep.
Okay.
Coney special and fries.
Who was your favorite Detroit athlete?
Probably Dave Bing.
I knew you was gonna say somebody else.
And Joe Straughter.
Okay.
Former Pistons players.
Yeah. Verner's or Canada Dry?
Verner's.
Okay. Better made or Lay's?
Both.
Okay.
But for different reasons. I just, their textures are different, but I love them both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Detroit or New York style pizza?
Ooh. Detroit.
Okay. You sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I like New York style, but Detroit is my favorite.
Okay. Here's the question I wanted to ask you. Favorite Motown artist?
Honestly, Stevie Wonder.
Okay. Start to say you can't say your dad. Favorite place to go in the city?
The Riverwalk.
Okay. Favorite Detroit team?
The Lions, of course.
I don't know why you said of course, but okay. Where can we find you? This is the last question. Where can we find you?
All over. But Rev Nas at IG, at Rev Nas. You can find me Nazim Fakir on Facebook. Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Nazim Fakir, child of Motown. Seems very well adjusted. Grew up well. Cool dude. Enjoyed working with him over the last almost year. And thank you for coming on. We're really glad to have you. Appreciate you, man.
I appreciate you inviting me. Thanks for, sitting down and chatting with me for a minute.
Yes, sir. Okay. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. This has been the Distinctly Detroit podcast. You can find us anywhere you get your pods. Please like, rate, subscribe, and we will see you next time. This has been the Distinctly Detroit podcast. This is a production of the University of Michigan Detroit Center. You can find us anywhere you get your pods. Please like, subscribe, and rate us. This podcast is executive produced by Marlon Franklin, edited by Ranza Stanton, and written by Shaylin Jones and Fyodor Ship III.